my BF gave away my Hamilton tickets. Am I being selfish for wanting to break up? Backstory. My mom is genuinely one of the funniest, kindest, sweetest people I've ever met, and I'm genuinely lucky to have been her daughter. She had me fairly young, raised me by herself, and while we were pretty poor growing up, she did her damnedest to make sure that I got a good education and had everything I needed as a kid. One of the things we share is a love of the theater. She would save up and take me to all the musicals that stopped on tour in our town, and while we were always in the cheap seats, it was always something we both greatly looked forward to. These memories of going to the theater with my mom are very precious to me, and is one of the main factors in why I work in the entertainment industry today. Corporate side, I have a horrendous singing voice, LOL. Fast forward to today. Like most theater nerds, my mom and I are basically obsessed with Hamilton. And for those of you who aren't really familiar with it, this show is basically impossible to get tickets for at this point, unless you want to see it in January of next year. I'm lucky enough to be in a financial position, WW, my job, that I could afford tickets for a show in July for me and my mom. These are amazing seats, 5th row center. And through some type of divine intervention, I managed to snag tickets for the night that Lin-Manuel Miranda's, creator, led in Hamilton, final performance. I surprised my mom with these tickets back in December. I bought them in October, I think, for Christmas. I'm making a whole week of it. I put us up in a really nice hotel. I made reservations at a bunch of restaurants that we both want to try, and we're going to do a bunch of touristy shit in general. Plus, try to see if we can fit in at least one other show before we leave. We are both incredibly excited for this. My mom even has a little Hamilton countdown that she's doing on a mini chalkboard she uses as a planner. She sends me pics every day when she changes it. It's cute. In January, I began dating this guy that I'll refer to as Josh. We were casual, not exclusive for a while, but became serious within the last 2 months. He also works in the corporate side of entertainment, but at a different agency than I do. He also has a higher position than me, and makes a loot more money than I do. This becomes important. We met at an industry event, and we hit it off instantly. I thought I could get really serious about this guy, and up to this point, there have been no red flags that I've seen. Although TBH right now I'm sifting through all of my memories to see if there's something I missed. He also comes from a much wealthier family than I do. Josh has a younger sister that I'll call Jennifer, 17, that's kind of going through a big troubled teen phase. She cuts class, smokes, and is really disrespectful to her parents. I've only met her once, but as far as I know, she's not doing anything too bad. She's just kind of a sad kid and could really benefit from some therapy. I floated this by Josh, but he said his parents are kind of disdainful of therapy in general. Josh says they can't reach out to her no matter what they do, and they've tried everything, except trying to get her to a counselor, but whatever. Actual problem time. Sunday night, I was at my place with Josh. We were drinking wine and cuddling while watching the Tonys Theater Awards show. My mom was texting me during the Hamilton performance and geeking out about how excited she was. I laughed and showed my mom's text to Josh because I thought it was so adorable. And he didn't say anything off, but he was acting kind of strange after. He asked me what date the show we were going to was, I told him. And then he went into the other room to take a phone call. I thought nothing of it because we both have to take random phone calls like that for our jobs all the time. And he's going through kind of a tough time at his. He was in an unusually good mood afterwards and said he had to go home early because he had to sign some forms at the office early tomorrow before we met up to get brunch with his parents later that day. Again, nothing too unusual and pretty common with the both of us. He picks me up at work for the brunch with his parents, and again he's in an unusually good mood. I ask what's up, and he says vaguely that things are going well at the office, and this deal he's trying to make is finally going through. I don't really press for info, BC. We both try to avoid work topics, partially due to work shit being fairly banal, and partially, BC, we both have to sign some pretty gnarly NDAs a lot of the time. And this is only my second time meeting his parents, so I'm still a bit nervous about brunch. We get to the brunch place, and the first thing his mom does when she sees me is give me a huge, warm hug and profoundly thanks me for my kindness. Her dad also gives me a huge handshake and thanks me for helping out with Jen. I'm kind of WTFing because I have no clue what they're talking about. I ask what she means, and she says for giving her the Hamilton tickets. I turn around to Josh, and he just has this big grin on his face. Reddit. That time my boyfriend was away talking on the phone for business. He was actually on the phone with Jen promising that I would give her my Hamilton tickets. I was so thrown off by this that I, kind of not very tactfully I admit, say how I had no clue about this. Josh looks pissed, and his parents are equally thrown off. But instead of getting mad at Josh, his mom just says, "Well, you can still give them to her though, right?" And they all look at me like I'm supposed to just agree with this. And I try to explain that the trip is actually for me and my mom, and how important this is to my mom. All three of them start going on about how Jen is super excited about this, and that this is the first time that she's not been mad expressed happiness to them in a while. And that's how the next half hour goes basically, until the parents leave, mad, and the dad calls me a selfish cow. I'm so flabbergasted that I just sort of put up with it, but I could barely get in a word. Josh and I go outside the brunch place, and he starts screaming at me about my selfishness, and how Jen is going through a much harder time than they thought. He wasn't very clear on this, so I'm not quite sure what he meant. And that I'm being childish because it's just a musical. I hate having arguments in public. Also, this is one of my favorite brunch spots, and I wanted to be able to come back without being embarrassed, so I wasn't really engaging. He eventually called me a cunt, WTF, and then left in his car, which is awkward as hell because it was valet parking, so he was just kind of stewing by the valet stand while I was waiting for my Uber. Later that night, I texted him saying while I wasn't giving up my tickets, there are still some available on that date. However, they cost about $2,500 due to ticket scalpers jacking up the price. Believe me, this is not a problem for either the parents or my boyfriend. He literally bought a $3K watch for funsies last week. The only response I got was that that was an exorbitant fee. I agree, but not the point. He refuses to pay, and he didn't understand why I couldn't just give the tickets to Jen. I also got texts from both his parents pleading with me to get the tickets, and also they forwarded an email to me that Jen sent to Josh and her parents for thanking them for the surprise. Apparently, she's also obsessed with Hamilton, and this is making her year. Also, we live in LA. Do they also expect me to give up my plane ticket hotel? WTF was their game plan here? Look, I completely understand wanting to help out with Jen, and I feel really bad that apparently her family is filled with weirdos. But this has been all so baffling, and the entitled behavior they displayed is a massive turnoff. I am not giving up these tickets. Is this selfish? But I also kind of want to cut my losses here. The attitude Josh displayed towards me outside of the brunch place was very unpleasant to say the least, and he knows how disrespectful I find being called a cunt, so I'm of half a mind to just break up with him. He knew I had these tickets for a while, and I don't get why he decided to do this now at all. But should I contact Jen and explain it all? I just saw that she made a really excited post on Facebook about it. I'm not friends with her, but I am friends with my BF, and he liked her post. I would straight up buy the ticket for her, but frankly, I can't afford those prices, BC. I'm saving up for the NYC trip for my mom. How do I move forward? Update 1. I'm typing up an email dumping him right now. Normally, I think it's better to meet up IRL for things like this, but his behavior both during and outside brunch was scary, and I would prefer not to be alone W him right now. Maybe that's paranoid, but better safe than sorry. I think this is one of those situations where everything was so crazy, and they were acting like this is totally normal behavior, that I thought I was the insane one.